You know what I realized after years of repairing phones? Phones are basically their own life form. Seriously, sometimes you open a device and genuinely don't understand how it's still working. People bring in phones after drops, water damage, freezing temperatures, being stepped on, sat on, run over by cars, forgotten on top of vehicles, and somehow some of them still turn on. And then someone walks in with a perfectly clean phone. No scratches, no cracks, completely dead. That's the weird part about this job. But honestly, the most interesting thing about phone repair isn't the technology, it's the people. Because every broken phone comes with a story, and almost every story starts with, "I honestly don't know what happened." That sentence is legendary in repair shops. The moment a customer says that, you already know something crazy is coming. Someone walks in with a phone that looks like it lost a fight with concrete. Not one crack, not a small chip. The entire screen looks shattered into microscopic particles. And the customer says, "It just fell, just fell." Of course, phones are very independent creatures, especially at night, especially near tiles, especially near stairs. After a while, you actually start identifying what happened just by looking at the damage. If the bottom corner is cracked, it probably slipped out of a pocket. If the phone is bent, someone definitely sat on it. If the back glass is destroyed but the screen is perfect, it landed face up. And if there's water damage and the customer looks nervous, there's a very high chance the phone visited a toilet. That's an entire category of repairs by itself. And what's funny is almost nobody admits it immediately. They'll say something like, "It got a little wet." A little wet. Meanwhile, you open the phone and water is literally dripping out of it. Water damage is honestly one of the worst repairs because replacing a screen is straightforward. Replacing a battery is predictable. But water damage? That's gambling. Sometimes you clean the phone, everything works perfectly. The customer leaves happy. Then 2 weeks later, Face ID stops working, signal disappears. Cameras fail, the battery drains instantly, the phone overheats. Because corrosion never sleeps. That's the thing people don't understand. They think if the phone still turns on, it's fine. No, sometimes the real damage starts after the phone turns back on. And then there's the legendary rice method. This is probably one of the biggest myths in tech history. I have no idea who first told people to put wet phones in rice, but they changed society forever. People really believe in it. Their phone falls into water, and instead of going to a repair shop, they go buy rice. Sometimes expensive rice too, like the phone is gonna say, "Oh wow, premium jasmine rice, I'm healed now." But rice doesn't repair phones. At best, it absorbs a tiny amount of moisture from the outside. Meanwhile, inside the phone, corrosion is still slowly destroying components. The worst thing people do after water damage is using a hairdryer. That's when a small problem becomes a big problem. Hot air pushes moisture deeper into the phone. Sometimes adhesive melts. Sometimes displays get damaged. Sometimes batteries swell. And suddenly a simple cleaning repair becomes motherboard level micro soldering. Batteries are another topic people underestimate. A battery doesn't just hold charge. Modern phones depend heavily on battery health. When batteries degrade, phones start acting weird. Random shutdowns, lagging, overheating, sudden percentage drops, restarting by themselves. And most people blame software updates. Meanwhile, the battery is basically begging for retirement. Cold weather is another funny thing, especially with iPhones. Have you ever noticed your battery suddenly dropping from 40% to 2% in winter? That happens because lithium-ion batteries hate cold temperatures. Chemical reactions slow down in freezing conditions. So the phone thinks the battery is nearly empty. Then you walk indoors and magically the percentage comes back. People think it's a glitch. Nope, that's chemistry. Cheap chargers are another silent killer. This one is dangerous because damage happens slowly. Someone buys a super cheap charger from a random market. Technically, it charges the phone, but the voltage regulation inside can be terrible. Over time, charging becomes unstable. The phone overheats. Charging ports fail, power management chips get damaged, and the customer never connects the problem to the charger because the damage builds up over months. And then there are indestructible phone cases. People buy giant military-grade cases and suddenly feel invincible. Then the phone falls perfectly onto one tiny rock, screen destroyed instantly because sometimes physics just wins. Displays are an entire universe by themselves. Customers often ask, why is one screen cheap and another expensive? Because displays come in wildly different quality levels. There's original quality, there are good copies, and there are screens that should honestly be illegal. Some bad displays look okay for the first few days. Then problems start. Weird colors, low brightness, touch delays, ghost touches, fast battery drain, and customers think the phone itself became worse. But it's the screen. One of the funniest things in repair work is seeing phones repaired by other people. Sometimes another technician did an amazing job. Other times you open the phone and it feels like someone repaired it using kitchen tools. Missing screws, wrong screws, glue everywhere, parts held together by pure optimism. I once opened a phone where the display was basically glued shut with industrial adhesive. I still don't know how that customer ever opened it again. And every technician knows this phrase, it only needs a screen replacement. That sentence is terrifying because you open the phone and discard that the battery was already replaced, cameras were swapped, Face ID was tampered with, half the screws are missing, waterproof seals are gone. That phone survived more surgeries than a movie character. What's crazy is how fragile modern smartphones really are. People think expensive means durable. Not necessarily. Phones are expensive because they contain incredibly advanced technology packed into tiny spaces. But glass is still glass. OLED displays are especially interesting. Every pixel lights itself individually. That's why black colors look truly black. But OLED also has weaknesses. If the same image stays on screen too long, it can burn in permanently, especially at maximum brightness. That's why you sometimes see faint keyboard shadows or TikTok interface outlines on old screens. Another thing people constantly do, using phones under pillows while charging. The phone heats up, the heat can't escape, battery health drops faster, and then 6 months later, people wonder why their battery life became terrible. But honestly, the worst repair situation isn't a cracked screen, it's lost data. That's the painful one. Sometimes customers walk in saying, I don't care about the phone, I just need the photos. And suddenly you realize this tiny device contains years of someone's life. Family pictures, kids growing up, voice notes, memories. That's when you remember phones are more than gadgets now. They're basically people's digital memories. And yet, almost nobody makes backups until it's too late. That's always how it happens. Another interesting thing about this job is how emotionally attached people become to their phones. Sometimes customers repair devices that are 7 or 8 years old, and honestly, I understand it. People get comfortable with certain phones. It becomes personal. The funniest repairs are usually the most unexpected ones. One customer once brought in a phone that smelled like barbecue smoke. I still have no explanation for that. Another phone arrived covered in flour because someone dropped it while baking. I've seen phones survive pools, snowstorms, motorcycles, and dogs. Yes, dogs. Apparently phones are chewable now. And despite everything, modern smartphones are actually incredibly impressive. Some devices survive unbelievable damage. I've seen phones bent in half that still turned on. Phones run over by cars that still vibrated. Phones dropped from balconies that somehow survived. Meanwhile, another phone falls 20 centimeters onto a table corner and completely dies. There's no logic sometimes. And after years in repair, I realized something important. Most phone damage isn't caused by technology failing. It's caused by people rushing. Phones fall because people are distracted. Phones break because someone put them on the edge of a table. Phones get wet because someone checked notifications near water. Most disasters happen in 2 seconds. That's it, 2 seconds. So after all these years, here's the best advice I can give anyone. Make backups. Don't buy terrible chargers. Don't dry wet phones with a hairdryer. And please, stop putting phones in rice. Rice belongs next to dinner, not inside an iPhone.
Problem battery. Only battery. Это мне новый. Не пробеешь новый.
А сколько времени надо?
Сколько времени?
2 часа.
3 house.
Вы работаете?
Автор.
И до скольки вечера?
С 10 до 9. Да, вот это как чуть-чуть перевозка. Я особо показать.